Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored today to welcome the illustrious CEO, author, Lauren Herring to the show. How are you doing, Lauren?
Hi, Ben. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited right now to have you here. I talk to people all the time, if you didn't know that. And there's so many people that are between jobs right now in our industry, people who I love, people who are watching this show right now. And you wrote this book, this amazing
so
book.
timely.
And I'm just like, I'm just beside myself right now. The book is called Take Control of Your Job Search, 10 Emotions You Must Master to Land the Job by Lauren Herring, CEO of Impact Group. I got so many questions for you, Lauren. But first, tell me, how did you come to write this book? What was the inspiration for this book?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to write a book on job search, which is one of our key things that we do at Impact Group is we help people find jobs. And in the relocation industry, we specialize in supporting the dual career spouse or partner with employment. And so I knew that I had this in me, but I also recognized there are 1,001 books out there on job search. And what in the world is important about another one? And so
Right.
I was just waiting for the right inspiration, actually, to come up with what's the right angle. And it's so interesting because I came up with this concept of the emotions as a core part of the job search when we were doing a product development process at Impact Group. So the background here is that, as we all know, in every part of the relocation industry, we are getting asked to make things cheaper and less expensive for our corporate clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're asked, can you do something for $350? Can you do something for $450, $500? Well, when what you do is offer a service that is basically the value is in someone's time, which is job search coaching,
Yep.
then it's really hard to provide value unless you're adding more to technology. And then at the same time, that career coaching, that one-on-one relationship that we have with our coach is so valuable. And so we were going through this product development process. It was a design thinking process for how do we get more value if we're taking out some of that coaching time. And what became so clear in this process is that the emotions are so core to job search. And one of the most valued pieces of the coaching relationship is that emotional support. And so, yeah, when you think about a job search coach, everyone immediately goes to help with the resume or help with interviewing, or I don't know how to network or social media these days. But the emotional impact is one of the pieces that stood out more than anything. And when you think about it, as prices are forced down, and you have to get to the meat of the job search, then what gets forced out is that emotional piece. And so where that eventually led to is, okay, well, how can we do other things to provide that emotional support? And that's when I knew that there is an opportunity. The missing piece in the job search literature was to support people through the emotional roller coaster. And that was how I decided that it was time to write the book.
I love this because you're so right in that. You're so right in that people focus on the tactical, right? Like how to write a resume, how to interview, how to navigate LinkedIn and create a personal brand and a strong profile, how to use the right words so that your resume survives the algorithm. It's all very tactical. Sometimes it's strategic, like how to find yourself and everything. But you're so right, because emotions and mindset, I'm a big fan of mindset also, which is kind of like emotions too, right?
Yeah.
It's so critical in everything we do. It's critical in being successful in a job. but it's also critical in finding that role and making it. I just think this is fantastic. We've got some people checking in right now, and I just want to, before we kind of continue on, and I want to go through all the emotions that you highlight in this book, and I want to talk about them specifically. And I know that there's people out there right now that are between opportunities, and they're looking and they're searching, and sometimes they're feeling desperate, and sometimes they're feeling afraid, and all these things we're going to probably talk about, you know.
And I would love to take some questions from the listeners in terms of some specific things that are coming up in people's job search, because I know that there's a lot of need in our industry right now.
Yes. So please ask questions. You got Lauren here, you've got me, and we're going to answer your questions. Let's get
networking master.
Yeah, I do okay. I think I'm deceptively average, but yeah, we'll see. I'll take it. Thank you. Let's see here. We got Jill checking in. She says, "Whoop."
Jill was so great. She had me on her show right before we launched the book also.
I love it. Fantastic. What's up, Jill? We've got Jack Jampel loving
Jack.
Adjectives. Hi, Ben and illustrious Lauren, he says. I love it. And Jack, I love that little Facebook photo too. You're going to have to tell me more about that. Looks like there's maybe a grand kiddo in there. Jack's going to be on the show Thursday and is going to debate me in lump sum, which is going to get violent potentially. No, I'm just kidding. Love Jack. Jamie Massler. Hi, Ben and Lauren. Cheers from sunny Mississippi. Looking forward to this show. Hey, Jamie. Good to see you. Molly Feldman. Hello from Jacksonville. Hey, Molly. Victoria McCullough. Hello, Ben and Lauren. Victoria from the DF Dub. Worked with the Impact Group. Never had a complaint.
Awesome. Nice. So great. Thank you, Victoria.
Victoria's amazing, by the way. Victoria's been openly searching for a job also. So I hope, Victoria, I'd love to hear some of your comments as well. Michael Quigley, hello from San Jose, California. Hey, Quigley. Good to see you, buddy. Nancy Schwartz, hello from Charleston. Yeah, give some shout outs here as well. Tag some people if they need to hear this message. Feel free to share this also. If you know somebody that's looking for a job, please share this post right now, and that way they can come and they can watch it. Tony checking in from San Mateo, California. Hey, Tony. Jill, you were amazing. Fantastic. Georgia Angle, having fun today. Right. Fun is important. Deborah Graham, great topic, Ben and Lauren. Any policy language tips to encourage use of job search assistance for the spouse? I'm quoting your average lost spouse income for relocation. Great info. Keep it coming. Hey, we'll take a question.
Awesome. Yeah. So what we know actually right now is that the average spouse or partner salary is over $70,000. So these spouses that we're moving are very qualified in their own right and well positioned for success. So it's not like you've got one high flyer and, you know, someone who's just kind of being dragged along by her hair, the trailing spouse image that you used to have. Now, I mean, we refer to accompanying partners. We talked about this last time, or even accompanying talent. And so the policy language that we recommend is to have a cap, honestly, a solid program for, you know, someone to really go through a supportive job search is going to be in that $2,000 range for job search alone. I mean, it's just these days, and even in a good job market, you know, that gives someone 3 to 6 months of support, which is valuable in any market, and especially in one that we're experiencing right now. So that policy language can be specific towards, I would recommend a referral towards a job search coaching company like ourselves. If you were to do it in terms of reimbursement or something, a lot of times people just don't end up taking advantage of that.
Yeah, they just pocket the cash, and it's probably not nearly as effective.
Yeah.
For sure. We see that on the moving side, but not to jump the gun, Jack Jampel. get into lump sums. But anyway, no, but this is great. And I think that's a great point too. And I'm just going to piggyback on that too, as someone who's negotiated these salaries and things like that too, is that, if I'm talent that's being recruited, I'm going to say, well, hey, I'm going to lose my wife's income of, let's say, $70,000 to use your example. And I'm going to need to offset that with my income. So if you're a hiring manager or a talent person or someone in global mobility, you can say, well, can't do that for you, sir. But what I can do is I can give you this impact group here, and they can take care of making sure Olivia finds a job in the new place. So
yeah, and historically, our data shows that we help people find jobs about twice as fast as the national average. So if that $2,000 is going towards the services, and again, all the more reason why they shouldn't get a lump sum. Sorry, Jack, and just pocket the money, is that $2,000 or even $1,000 that they would spend on whatever they want. If they get a job a month or even 2 months sooner, that is multiplied in terms of the value it's bringing back, in terms of the income into the family now.
Love it. Michael Quigley, excited to hear the best way to navigate the job search and how to manage the emotional part. Yes, if we could help Michael Quigley manage his emotions, I think the world would be a better place. So, just kidding, Mike. I love you too, man. So I want to get into this because there's so much meat here in take control of your job search. And I want to, I just want to get into it if we could. Can we just start talking about some of these emotions and just kind of give people a flavoring here? So before we get started, we talk about the emotions. I do want to say, take control of your job search is going to be the Love and Relo Book Club Book of the Month for the month of August. Okay. So we're going to be plugging this book, and we're going to be asking you to read it. And we are going to have a book club book discussion at the end of the month. So if you are currently in transition and you want to read this book and maybe even kind of find a sense of community around that transition and discuss these topics, please go out and buy the book. Lauren, where can people find the book?
They can find it on Amazon or wherever you buy your books.
Okay, perfect. Wherever you buy the books, and support your local booksellers as well. Okay, cool. Let's go into. Oh gosh. All right. You know what, Molly? We're gonna get to your question here. I want to get into the first emotion. Okay. So the first emotion that you discuss in your book is grief and sadness. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is something that naturally, when you hear this news, most people, if you're human, I would say most people have some sort of a sense of loss when they feel this, whether it's a fear or grief over a sense of their future. Some people might be close to retirement. It's that I was so close and now I have to start all over before I can retire. It could be that a loss of community. Your best friends were at work, and so now who are you going to have lunch with? So lots of emotions around grief, sadness, not to mention just the feeling of rejection that can well up in the face of this situation. And so, it's very easy, even though these, and I say this all the time through the book, these are almost never personal decisions. They're business decisions, but it nonetheless feels so personal when someone says that your services are no longer needed. And so these are very natural feelings.
Well, and we had Jana Masick on the show last week, who was at APR Energy, and she was the mobility manager there, and she was candid enough to say that she had been separated that week. She came on like 2 days before she came on. She was like, "That was my last day." But I tell you what, and we'll get into this later too. But we talked in the show, and it was like so much of your identity is wrapped around what you do every day, right? And people say, "Okay, what do you do?" And it's like who you are, right? And I imagine that plays into the grief and sadness factor.
Yeah, in fact, I have a quote in the book on grief and sadness here, where someone says, if you are what you do, who are you when you're not doing it anymore? And I think a lot of us in relocation can relate to that feeling.
My dad once told me that you're only worth what a company's willing to pay you. but then the flip side of that is what happens, and I think sometimes that's where we're left feeling, and I know that wasn't his point, right? He wasn't trying to go there with it, but like the flip side of that one day is, I remember it as I got fired back 9 years ago. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, Dad, that was a terrible piece of advice. All right, so let's go into
I get his point. There's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking about the next side. He was talking about like in negotiations. He wasn't thinking about in separation.
Exactly.
But I was
so what I do through the entire book is I have key suggestions and tactics to bring up throughout. If you're feeling really sad, here's some things you can consider doing. And so in the case of grief and sadness, one of the things that I suggest is just allow yourself the space to feel what you're feeling. Because if you don't, it's going to come out one way or the other. And especially with bottling up grief, it can really cause detrimental health effects even down the road. So one of the examples is, I know a lot of people just want to get going as quick as possible on their job search. So definitely do that. But also, if you feel the need to plow forward no matter what, take 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, and put your to-do list to the side and just allow yourself to kind of feel it. And whether it's meditation, journaling, talking to a friend, get it out, because that's really important to just make sure that you're going through the natural evolution of your emotions.
Well, speaking of the evolution of my emotions, when I went through it, my next one, which is what I expressed towards my father, anger is number 2, right? So tell me about the anger phase.
Yeah. So if you are familiar with the Kubler-Ross model of grief, that you go through the stages of change there. And so anger being one of them. And so again, this is very natural, but it's one of the emotions that you really need to get a hold of, because what we definitely hear that this causes problems more than any other time is during the interview. Because if you haven't dealt with your anger towards your former employer, there is going to be a question about what happened with your former employer.
Yeah, so why didn't it work out? Yeah.
And like I said, the emotions are there, whether you want them there or not. And it's going to just seep in under the door if you're not careful. And so with anger, one of the things that I really recommend is practice your interviewing. Practice, practice, practice. And I recommend people create a super team. I call it a super team. You could also call it a personal board of advisors. And so these are people, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the industry, Ben, that would say, I want Ben on my super team. And, these are professional colleagues or acquaintances, people that you trust. And then you also want to have someone that, who's a shoulder to cry on if you need, or, whatever that metaphorical need is. And so in this case, use someone that you trust that has some industry and professional level experience to practice your interview questions and ask you some of those trigger point questions to verify that you're coming across totally neutral or positive, not getting any of that negativity or anger coming through.
So it's key, even when you think they're just the most ridiculous human beings in the face of the planet, that you don't disclose that in the interview.
Correct.
Oh, they were lovely. It just wasn't a good fit.
You
and you just fake smile the whole time. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, better, easier said than done, right? I guess that's why you need practice, right?
Well, that's why you need practice. That's why you need to get the emotions out, go through the process.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I still have so much hatred towards that company that let me go back in 2011. But anyway, I'm not going to tell anybody about that. Okay. Number 3 is fear. Number 3 is fear.
Yeah. So this one is interesting because going back to your first question about why I decided to write the book, it was in an interview or a networking session that I had with a very high level executive that clued me in so much for the first time during that product development process on the emotions. So I was meeting with this gentleman who, if you were really ticking off your list, he was doing everything right. He was networking. He had different versions of his resumes, but it was like everything that he said, he was just throwing the kitchen sink at me. And what was actually coming across to me was this man is being driven by his fear, and he is in what I call hypomania, meaning just like a manic phase of just action, 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 action. And just, it was almost like, it was coming out of every pore was all of his job search prowess, but it was coming out in the wrong way. And so what I interpreted was all that action was just like, oh my gosh, this man is so afraid that he's never going to work again.
Desperate.
And yeah. And so one of the ways that fear shows up is just desperation.
I'll do whatever. Yeah. Hire me. Yeah. I can do anything. I'll paint the walls. I don't care. Please, I just need a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm obviously, this is such a scary experience when you've got, now not only do you have financial issues on the line, but in the world of COVID, you've got life and death health concerns in the mix too. So there's so much fear going on, the hysteria around just what's going to happen with the economy. So with regard to fear, one of the things that I recommend is just think back, like what actually are you afraid of? Like sometimes it's just this big amorphous unknown and you're afraid of the unknown. Okay, well, let's get real clear about what you're afraid of. Yeah. And then how can you put some very specific action plans around that?
Yeah, I love it because once you name it and get specific about it, then you can really solve for it. I do have a theory right now, and it may not be a popular one. It's easy for me to say, but I do think now is the best time to be unemployed, and for a couple of reasons. One, because the benefits are better than ever, right? You can get out of your mortgage and you can get some, unemployment, increased unemployment assistance. And the second thing is everybody understands the gap. Oh, you got a gap on your resume? Hey, COVID. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, perfectly understandable. Yeah, sorry, moving along. COVID. Yeah, like for the dates of March through August of 2020, COVID. Oh, okay, and then you got a job. Okay, makes perfect sense. Yeah, all kidding aside, I'm sure it's not that easy. Let me ask you. Let's take a break. Let's take a question break. We'll do this every few fears. So keep them coming. We're gonna take a quick question break here. Keep those questions coming. Molly Feldman, Molly, love Molly. What challenges are you facing in the current environment? What challenges are you facing in the current environment?
So what you can tell me, Molly, if this is what you're meaning, but one of the big things in this current environment is there's a lot of people on the market. So what do you need to do to stand out? And so that's how I'm interpreting this question. What's one of the big challenges that job seekers are facing? It's how do you stand out? And so I point to two things that I regularly come back to in the book, which is number one, work on your personal brand. You talked about personal brand a little bit earlier, Ben. This is so critical, and it's not just what's on your social media. What I think of with personal brand is I think, okay, what is it that I love doing, that I'm great at? Who am I at my best? And how can I package that in a couple sentences? But also, how do I package that so I know exactly what I want to do? Because if I know exactly what I want to do, then I can articulate that really easily to someone else. And you need to make yourself really easy to help. Because when you're networking with people, if you say, yeah, I'm looking for a job and I could be in this industry or I could do this, then it's like, I don't know what to do with you. But if you're saying I'm looking for this type of job in this industry, and obviously you want to adjust that depending on who you're talking to at the moment. And so there might be slight variations of this, but you want to be really crystal clear in who you are and what you're great at. And then that is going to be something that you can do in your networking and on your social media, in your resume, and all of that. The other key thing to stand out is network. And so there is a 10x factor between getting your resume handed over to a hiring manager or an HR executive versus applying online. 10x difference between.
And results, you mean? How likely you are to get a job? getting hired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this one study of, several hundred people that were hired, 101 out of 150 people were hired um, in the online process, but 1 out of 16 were hired if you are a personal referral.
Yeah. And isn't that
So network your way into someone at that company who can make a personal introduction as to why someone should take a second look at your resume.
that is probably the most old school yet most underrated piece of advice. They always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then I heard a riff on that. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. Right. But it's
Yeah.
all along the lines of, can I get an introduction? I mean, how many of these internships are because somebody's kid, needed a job for the summer, right? And we talk about the oh gosh, the access to opportunities and stuff. Anyway, that's phenomenal advice, Molly. I hope that was helpful. We got Jack coming in here, clearing the air, and then going into a question. Just set the record straight. I'm a strong supporter of full service moves. However, also lump sums for certain level position. Jack, I'm just
well taken.
Point taken, Jack. Love you, man. Jack, it's got to be so hard to be my friend, Jack. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jack says, what does your discussion sound like when someone has the experience and who has been doing a very similar job, but not the college degree which is required? It appears like some companies may be changing this and use experience over a degree. What are your thoughts?
Great question. I would say that it really depends on the company, and what we see, especially in that Fortune 500 kind of company, that we are seeing more and more organizations that are requiring the degree. Now, is that possibly going to change in an age of COVID, or, are there exceptions to that? Probably. But overall, I would say the larger companies do tend to look for that more specifically. So without a college degree, you just have to get a little bit more creative in your targeting as you're looking for opportunities. And so that could be, I want to work at smaller organizations, or it could be by industry, maybe where that's more acceptable. And obviously in this environment, the industry of, in COVID, industry matters a lot. So Jackson, an industry that I assume is probably still hiring pretty well. And then obviously, if you're in the travel and tourism industry, less so. But I would say some of those, every company is different. Look at their requirements on their website, and then there always could be exceptions, again, if you can get the right person to vouch for you.
Well, and that goes back to your piece of advice last time, right, on the last question, which is, get your resume in the hands of someone that knows someone there and can vouch for you, and create your large personal brand, right? As someone who invests a lot in their personal brand, people aren't asking me about my college degree,
right.
In fact, my cousin told me to take my SAT score off my LinkedIn account, which I'm debating. I got a 1320. I'm proud of it. Anyway, my point is, though, you bring up a really excellent point, Lauren. And so I would say, create that strong personal brand, and then network and ask that specific to your point earlier. Understand what your value proposition is and make that specific ask to say, I am looking for this specific type of role, and the people that hire this role are these types of people. And gosh, great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a person that I've hired, and we're an extremely professional organization where degrees matter in our industry. But I did hire an executive without a degree because of 30 plus years of experience. I will say I debated on it. Is this the right thing? Will that matter to our clients? But overall, I value track record. So again, it's but the ATS, the applicant tracking system, is never going to create that wiggle room for you.
And the applicant tracking system is the algorithm that we hear about that ferrets out whether you're qualified or not.
That's what I call the black hole of the resumes. and it goes in and nothing comes out. And you're lucky if you get someone's an automated response saying we've received your resume or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, if you've been rejected for a job and you applied online, chances are no one even saw your resume and you were just rejected outright because of some algorithm.
That's so disgusting to me. Like, why do we rely on these processes? Why do we rely on these processes that obviously exclude people that are well, some are fantastic. I mean, some probably are reasonably excludable, but some are fantastic, right? We've got some great questions here and advice. I want to get through these. Oh gosh, I mean, I know we have so many more emotions to talk about. I'm so conflicted. Is that an emotion? All right, here we go. I'm gonna keep going.
What I can do is I can try and incorporate some of the emotions advice into what we're talking about with the questions.
Perfect. I love it. Okay. So Nicole Brilli says, love the advice about telling people what you're good at. That goes a lot further than saying what type of job you're good for. Interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you're networking, you want to be very clear about what you're asking for. I mean, obviously, like what Nicole was saying, what are you hiring for this type of job? That's not a very inspiring conversation to have. But if you can say, here's what I'm great at. Here's the value I add in an organization. I'm looking for this type of company. And in particular, I'm really interested in this company. And I see that you're connected to so-and-so that works at ABC company. Would you be willing to make an introduction? And after you've built your case about why you're so good at all these things, and if it's someone that actually does have a relationship with that individual, then that's having a specific ask is critical also.
Fantastic. Gabby's been so active lately. I love Gabby coming on here. I see a lot of coaches indicate strong LinkedIn presence is critical. How should someone, quote, show up on this platform in an effective and smart way?
I think that one is going to depend on what type of job you're looking for. If you're looking for, PR, branding, anything marketing, I would show up on LinkedIn really front and center, solid, demonstrating that you're putting out maybe some of your own thought leadership, or that you're curating really excellent content with great, thoughtful comments about it, commenting on other people's. That's the other underrated thing to do, is target the people that you are interested in getting their attention and start commenting on their posts. All of a sudden, now you have their attention after a few days or a couple weeks of that. Now, whereas maybe before they wouldn't have given you the time of day, now they at least have a little bit of an idea of who you are. Okay, let's talk. So there's a couple of ways to play up your LinkedIn presence. But one of the key things you need to do is just make sure that as you're looking at the types of jobs that you're interested in, make sure some of those buzzwords are front and center in your profile, and then make sure you're saying that you're interested in hearing from recruiters. They are looking on LinkedIn profiles, and we do have stories of people coming and reaching out to individuals on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and Gabby, in this is a tactical thing, but in your experience and your headline and your summary and profile, you you should put a lot of keywords in there. And so a lot of people that have more success showing up in some of these searches in LinkedIn might have, for instance, a title like immigration manager / global mobility manager / relocation, expert or something like that. And the reason that's important is because maybe they were searching immigration, maybe they were searching global mobility, maybe they were searching relocation. But if you don't have it all in there, it doesn't get picked up, unfortunately. So it might look a little wonky, and it probably wasn't on your business card, but it'll still fly, and you're not lying, right? Anyway, so that's what I would say about that. Fantastic stuff. Do we have a visitor? It sounds like we might have a guest.
Sorry, the cat came in.
It's all right.
The joys of working at home.
I love it. Last time we talked, can we just take a sidebar here? Last time we talked, you were 9 months pregnant.
Yes.
And and now you're not, and now you have a baby. This is so amazing. I
Little
love it.
Luca is amazing. He is such a joy and so much fun, and he's 5 months already.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Love it. Anyway, that's great. Good for you. I'm so happy for you. Let's see here.
Here,
We got
the cat is dying to make an appearance. So
here we
here,
got,
everybody.
oh,
Here's
you
Izzy.
tease me with Luca, and then you give me a cat. I love.
Well, I don't have Luca's sleeping downstairs.
I was like, Luca's on the floor right now. Show me the cat. Let's see the cat. Let's see the cat. Let's see the cat.
Here's Izzy one more time.
Izzy, beautifully groomed too. Look at that. Beautiful cat. Love it. Fantastic. I really thought I was getting a live baby shot. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll forgive you. All right, let's see here. Tony says, yes, Google actually just recently said they would consider courses on Coursera to count as a 4-year degree.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think it would be interesting also, I'm curious, is that for their coding positions or across the board? Because a lot of times in the tech space, the certifications might count more than formal education, but I'm very intrigued by that.
Jamie loves the cat. He's a huge cat guy. Fantastic. Tony says, I think companies need to change a degree mentality to a skilled mentality. A degree doesn't mean much. Just ask Elon Musk. Yeah, I mean, interesting. I think the degree thing is a shortcut to a lot of other skills, right? If you're hiring somebody, like, well, if they finish, college, they could show up every day despite the kegger last night. That's sort of got to be worth something, and they can pass the pre.
My husband says that he's not smart enough to not have a degree, so he needed a degree to prove that he actually can do the work.
That's funny. So
I guess, in other words, my husband is not Elon Musk.
That's right, or some of these other, Einstein or some of these other people, right? That went on without a degree. Victoria McCullough, there are so many coaches out there reaching out to many of us who are unemployed. They all want to redo a resume. I'm sick of changing my resume based on someone's opinion. I do modify if I post for a job. Any suggestions?
Well, I agree. You don't need to change the formatting or go back. And if you've got a solid resume, then I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to change your resume. I think the key is make sure you get some really good feedback on the resume that you're using. You should have, just maybe a couple versions depending on the types of jobs that you're applying for, and then you would customize to every job opening. So I would say you don't need to go with a professional if you have what you are very confident is an excellent resume. It doesn't hurt to get another opinion from an HR professional or a recruiter or something like that. What you really want to make sure that you have on your resume, hopefully everybody already knows this, but the objective at the top, old news, don't do it. You want to have a title up front with some buzzwords, global mobility immigration professional, to use the example you gave a minute ago there. You want to have a very succinct few sentences, maybe 2, maybe 3 sentences at the top of a summary that can give someone an idea of your personal brand. Who are you at your best? What value are you bringing to an organization? Make it about your future employer, not about you. And then you want to have some keywords, and anywhere between 5 and I've seen up to 12. That might be too many. Depends on the industry or the type of job, I suppose. But anyway, some keywords in that top section also, and then go down in the chronological. The other thing is make sure you have data bullet points of numbers, like what number value can you contribute in your former jobs, and demonstrating where you took action, you took initiative, and where those things are playing up on your personal brand as well.
All right, great stuff. Here we go. Let's get back into the emotions, okay? Let's get all in our feelings here. All right. So number 4, my favorite one, denial. Okay. This is where I like to live. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
What is
So
denial all about?
is part of the grief process. So denial is helpful until it's not. So there, there is a role for denial, but obviously you don't want to live in denial too long, because you do need to start looking for a job, and you do need to get the bills paid, and you do need to get your voice out there on the market. So the other thing that you can be in denial about, it might not just be the global fact that you're out of work, but it could also be you're in denial of the fact that you need some work on your interviewing. And some people, like maybe a salesperson, feels like they are just the best interviewer. But when it comes down to it, maybe they're sounding overconfident and they have no idea how they're coming across. They're just not likable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why you want to have some practice interviews. You want to do them virtual, like we're doing right now. You want to do them in person. You want to do phone, and make sure that you get feedback on all different formats of how you can improve. But probably denial of your interviewing capability is one of the big places that denial shows up.
So people think they're good at interviewing and they're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it. All right. You know what? And I'm going to play through some of these emotions, and gosh, this is so irritating right now. Why won't somebody just give me a job?
Yeah. Well, the frustration, I would say, probably shows up the most if you're spending 40 hours a week in front of the computer hitting apply on job boards. So we've already covered that. It's not effective. Don't do it. Spend your time focused on targeting which companies that you really want to focus on, and then also and researching those companies, and then on your building your network. And so how do you identify a pathway to get into the key decision makers for those roles that you're interested in? And that's where you should be spending your time. It's going to help with several things. Number one, your results. And also it's just going to help with your demeanor, even an introvert, needs the interpersonal interaction. And so, if we were to flip forward into the loneliness factor, people get really lonely when they are not doing these things that are actually the most effective in your job search.
So then I'm like super worried, because what if I don't ever get a job? What if nobody wants to hire me?
Yeah, so the difference between fear and anxiety is what we define as, like, fear is more specific, where you're gripped by a very specific fear. And then I talk about how anxiety is more just this kind of energy that you feel. And actually, I read an article while I was researching this where they talk about anxiety is hard to describe, but you know it when you feel it. Mm-hmm. And so anxiety, again, just make sure that you're out there talking with people through your process. Don't suffer in silence. And then if there are situations where you're starting to go down into a very negative place, make sure that you're talking to the right people. If that is to begin with, maybe it's friends and family, or your spouse, maybe someone, a faith leader. But then if it gets to a place where it's getting stronger, then, engage a job search coach, or eventually don't forget that there are opportunities, especially through EAPs. And oftentimes EAPs and the benefits of EAPs still continue after your employment ends in some form or another. So you can still reach out to your EAP usually and get some assistance.
EAP, Employee Assistance Program, I believe.
Right. Yes.
And it's kind of like for some of the kind of mental health support. Thank you for. Let's take a quick break here and do a couple of questions and comments here. We have people checking in. Rory's checking in. Rory's making the pitch in the comments over here, saying he's got 35 years in the biz, and then hits you up with the specific ask. Lauren Herring, will you write a new resume for me?
Let's talk.
Let's talk, Rory. That's a soft no. All right. Georgia says, love
Happy
you,
to
Rory.
help. Happy to help.
Happy to help. Happy to help.
It's not a no. It's just let's talk.
Okie dokie. Georgia says, how often do you continue to reach out within your network group when there are no open positions at that company?
Yeah, this is a really great question because you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to be banging on people's doors when they've already said there's no openings. I would say every 3 to 4 weeks, just a light touch. You don't need to say any openings yet. Any openings? How about this time? But how are you staying in touch with your network so that they are so that they're aware that you're still in the market, and make sure that your personal brand, what you want to do and what you're good at, the value you bring to a company. Here's something that I've done for other organizations and would love the opportunity to do it at your organization. That's actually slightly different than this question, but another tactic that I've seen work is if there's a company that you are really passionate about working for, and you can create create a case for why you love this company and what about them speaks to you and why you think you can bring extra value and how you're going to help them down the road. I've seen a cover letter like that, again, not submitted in the applicant tracking system online, but actually given to someone at that company. Just say, hey, I know there aren't any openings right now, but I just want you to know this, and I want you to keep me in mind for when there is. And if you can write a really compelling statement, succinct and to the point with some bold key points, that's a great way to make sure that people will remember you and not just like, oh yeah, that's that person that follows up with me every few weeks.
I think that's a great point. I think as you were talking about that, there's something else that kind of came to my mind where, people don't love like, hey, got a job? Hey, got a job yet? Hey, got a job yet? Especially if they don't have anything off the top of their head that they can do for you. But I think that people always love, hey, I know somebody that I think would be a good client for you. Can I introduce them to you? I know Susie over here, and she was just talking about needing XYZ services, and I thought of you because I love your company. I love what you do. I would love to introduce Susie to you. Is that cool? Yeah, send her over. Love it. And all of a sudden, the whole dynamic of the relationship changes, right? And you've demonstrated your value now. And I just got to help but think that that's a different type of conversation going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, the point of you showing up to a company as, I am going to bring value to this organization is exactly what you want, the conversation you want to be having. If you can actually demonstrate that in the hiring process, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And then things move along very quickly all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. Hosea says, hello from a Versal Global Relocation. What's up, Hosea?
Hello.
Sandra Clary says, love the cat. My own came in from the other room and stared at the computer when you started talking. How funny would this be if this was a guest and their animal show, and like if I had an animal talking to your animal and everybody had an animal, and it was like, that'd be interesting. That's funny. So let's get back here to the human talk here. So moving from, am I ever going to find another job? This is kind of hopeless, to I am all alone in this situation. Nobody cares about me and I'm irrelevant.
Yeah, so I've mentioned this a couple times in terms of how alone you can feel when all you're doing is searching the job board. So we've talked about that pretty significantly here. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people in their minds think of networking as, hey, I'm going to Worldwide ERC and that's where I'm going to be doing all my networking. But networking is something that does not have to be a formal or intimidating experience. Think of it like reconnecting. So instead of calling it networking, call it reconnecting. Your network is people you went to high school with. It's people you went to college with. It's people you worked with 20 years ago. So these are people that many of whom you might have, clicked accept on the friend for Facebook, a number of years ago, but you haven't ever interacted since. There's no reason right now that you can't reach out to those types of people that are in your peripheral network and start that conversation. And obviously you want to lead with, hey, it's been so long. I'm focusing on my network right now because I'm in the job market, but I realize I just haven't talked to you in forever and I'd love to reconnect. Can you find 15 minutes? And so you made it clear that, it's that you do have somewhat of a purpose, but you also have a human purpose, which is just to reconnect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And then what the heck is this? Self-compassion. What is that?
So this might be a little too new agey for you here, Ben, but
I'm interested. I mean, I want to love myself. How do I do it?
Yeah, well, this is that when you come in second for a job or when you blow an interview, it's very easy to beat yourself up. And I think it's human nature that we treat ourselves worse than we would treat our worst friends.
Mm.
And so how can you give yourself a little grace through this process? Understand that it is a stressful experience and that you deserve goodness in your life and you don't have to beat yourself up. And so making sure that you allow yourself breaks where you don't have to sit at the desk 8 hours a day, allow yourself to go out and do your favorite things, see your friends. Yeah. Those are the kinds of things that are going to really help build your soul inside during this time.
Love it. Okay, cool. All right. So take it easy on yourself, Ben. It's not that bad, buddy. You're still a half decent human being. Then with that, I imagine that positive self-talk comes confidence. Hey, I can do this. I am somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, so confidence is interesting because it can be a blessing and a curse. So obviously you want to have confidence, but you also want to kind of ride that line between confidence and vulnerability, but not so far that you lose your sense of competence, that someone now understands that you are capable of doing the job. So you want to show up with confidence. You want to be likable, not too much. Now the key thing to go back to the branding with confidence that I love. One of the reasons why I love focusing on branding is because there are times that you're going to be down in the dumps in a job search. And that's just part of the deal. But if you can hold in your mind who you are at your best, and yeah, I got promoted in my last job because I was awesome and I closed that deal and I rocked that presentation or whatever it is. Remember those moments in your career because that's who you are as a professional. You are not, Susie job searcher. You are the Susie rock star in your job. And remember who you are and put that rock star outfit on when you go into an interview, not the, okay, I'm a job seeker. I got to win this job.
Yeah. No, I love that. Remember who you were at your highest career moment. You're still that person. Yep. You're still the same person that went in and rocked that presentation, closed that client, wowed that transferee, whatever you did, wrote that policy. You're still that person. So keeping yourself in that mindset, walking into that interview. And when you, and I think part of that too is telling that story in your head, reciting that story, because those are going to be the same stories that you're going to want to tell when you're in that interview. Tell them that story of when you rock that presentation and tell it with passion and conviction and excitement, which brings us to number 10. Wow. Excitement. Fired up.
Yeah. And so a company wants you to be excited about their opportunity. So you want to show up with confidence and passion and excitement. And the excitement piece comes back to kind of that cover letter concept that I mentioned earlier, where you can demonstrate to an organization that you're that you want to work for them, that you would be excited, and that you align with this organization from a values perspective. That's something that I think, a lot of times in the job search process, job seekers feel like, employer's here and I'm here. But, really, how can we look at it instead like that both are looking for the right fit? You don't want to end up at a place that's not a fit for you either. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research up front and investigating, is this a great place that I'm going to enjoy being and be excited to go to work every day as well? So you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
And I think that's key also to the confidence standpoint is to feel, I even look at it like I'm up here. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm up here and I get to choose, right? And I'm picky. Yeah. I'm going to be picky. I'm going to look for the right fit. I'm going to look for the right culture. Because the last thing, to your point, is 6 months in, I work for some jerk and some company that has no values, no purpose, and is not intentional about the way they are in the marketplace. And so the last thing I want to do is put myself in that situation. So I'm pretty picky, I mean, just and I think that's just where my mentality is.
Yes, so as we all should be.
Exactly, because you deserve it. You know what? You deserve to work for a great company. And anyway, you get me on my soapbox.
Self-compassion there too.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. We've got some really cool comments coming in. Those are fantastic. Oh, those are fantastic. I love it. If you got any more questions, we got about 5 minutes. So let's take some questions here from Lauren Herring, CEO of Impact Group and author of an awesome new book, which I'm going to show one more time, called Take Control of Your Job Search here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We've got the dueling books here.
Yes, we do. Look at that.
The other thing I want to mention about the book, which I wrote this so that it's almost like you could have a coach in your corner. That a lot of people might not be able to afford a job coach in the situation of job search because money's tight. So, I focus on both the job EQ, the career EQ, which is the emotional pieces, and then the job search IQ, which is the tactical things of the job search throughout. But for every emotion, in the back, I have a tactics guide so that it's just like you can open up to how you're feeling that day. And there's a number of exercises or perspectives to think about that can help you through, and move forward past those experiences. The other thing that I did in the book is I created a super team guide, which is for the loved ones, family and friends of someone who's looking for a job. So if you know someone who's looking for a job, check out the super team guide in the book, because that can help you with how can you best support them. So for example, if you're frustrated that your husband Joe is not getting off the couch. Why isn't he getting off the couch? Nagging him is probably not going to get him off the couch. So what are the ways that you can, how can you look at what that root cause is? Why is he on the couch? Is he afraid? Is he frustrated? And then how can you maybe dig a little deeper and then help him to move forward in those other ways?
I mean, he's on the couch because statistically speaking, the couch is the most comfortable chair in the house, and he ain't got nothing else to do. So that's why he's on the couch. But anyway, I've been on the couch. Victoria McCullers says, I've decided to pivot my strategy. I'm reaching out to contacts, letting them know I am open to short-term assignments. This gives me and the company an opportunity to get to know each other.
Love it. Yeah, this is so key, especially in this environment. Companies are going to hire contract help first before they go back and hire full-time. So if you are willing to work short-term, like you said, it's giving a company the opportunity to test you out, you to test them out, and then they don't feel the commitment, which is what a lot of companies are concerned about in an environment like this. Great point. And look at maybe what are the transferable skills that you have that maybe might not be right in your current wheelhouse, but how can you apply those in other areas in short-term assignments as well?
Love it. Molly Feldman has some sage advice to start a cat dating website. So if your cat is single, I can definitely curate some romantic.
I think the cat's got more props than we did, Ben.
Yeah, the cat was definitely a hit. 70% of people enjoyed what we said. 100% of people enjoyed the cat. Francine Dresty says, "Hi, Ben and Lauren. That totally makes sense to call networking connecting. It sounds and feels like there is more value just by changing the word used."
Great. Yeah. Well, and a lot of times people have mental images of what is networking that psych them out before they even get started.
Yeah, love it. Brian Smith. Hey, Brian, I've been thinking about you, buddy. Where you been, man? It's good to see you. Hi, Ben. Had to come represent a fellow STLer?
St. Louisan.
Well, I get it, but is that the problem? I mean, can you say you're going to get Jamie excited. He thinks it's a Steelers shout out. Okay. Okay. It's not a Steeler. It's not the Steelers. Okay. Got it. It's Jamie. It's not the Steelers. No, Brian, good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. You owe me a connection. You owe me a phone call, Brian. This has been fantastic. This is a great book, chock full of tips, tricks, empathy, strategy stuff, tactical stuff. I love it. Lauren, there's people out there that are watching this that don't have a job and they're going through all the emotions. They're somewhere in the 10 phases here. What advice or parting words of wisdom do you have for folks?
Yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity. Well, obviously it's a challenging market right now. I don't say that to psych people out. I think it's just the reality because of COVID, like we were talking earlier. There's a lot of competition. So the key is, how do you stand out? And the best way you can stand out is by getting real clear about your personal brand and shouting it from the rooftops in a socially appropriate sort of way. And then networking, connecting, and leveraging the relationships that you've had. You've spent a career building relationships with people who know your value, and so now it's a time to just work that, not in a schmoozy sort of way, but in an authentic sort of way. And that's the key, is standing out to hiring managers. Get to the hiring managers, avoid the applicant tracking systems. And even if you have to submit your resume that way, don't depend on that. And just don't make your life revolve around the job search. Contrary to kind of the comment that Ben said about his dad, your worth and your value is not in, what you're doing every day for work. It's in, you are more than what you do. And so make your life more about your holistic values and how work can support that.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And I love the fact you wrote this book, Lauren, and you shared your expertise with people. So great. You're real inspiration. Thank you so much for writing this book. We're going to talk about this book at the end of the month, and we're going to plug it all month long. So I encourage you all to go out, buy it on Amazon or with your local booksellers. And if you're interested in discussing the book here on Love and Reload, we'd love to have you in our book club discussion towards the end of the month in August. It is the August book club book of the month. So Lauren, thank you so much for stopping by Love and Reload today and sharing your insights with us.
Absolutely. And I am happy to send out free copies to your reviewers or the book club group as well.
Hey, you hear that? You want a free copy of the book? Sign up to be in the book club review group, and Lauren will send you a copy. That's so nice of you, Lauren. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Take care, everybody.